In this video, we'll look at the changing role of building control and discuss how that will necessitate significant changes in the relationship between building control and clients, designers and contractors. Duty holders must now demonstrate how their design complies with the building regulations and not ask if it complies. Building control is to become a regulated profession, both for individuals and organisations. From April 2024, individual building control surveyors will have to be registered as registered building inspectors in order to practice in building control and advise building control bodies on the compliance of a project or not with the building regulations. It will be an offence to impersonate a registered building inspector by claiming to be a registered building inspector if you are not. Not only will individual surveyors need to be registered, but approved inspectors who currently provide a private sector building control service will have to register with the building safety regulator in order to provide a building control service. The new name for approved inspectors will be registered building control approvers. It will be a requirement of a registered building control approver to seek the advice of a registered building inspector in order to carry out certain functions or activities. Restricted activities will be activities traditionally carried out by building control bodies, such as checking plans and inspecting work on site. These activities must be carried out by a registered building inspector who is registered at the appropriate classification, having demonstrated their competence to check design information and check work on site for compliance with the building regulations. Restricted functions are the functions that a building control body carries out, such as issuing an initial notice or final certificate. None of these restricted functions can be carried out without a consultation with and a recommendation report from a registered building inspector. Although as clients, designers and contractors, you won't necessarily see this happening directly as it will happen in the background, it will affect how both registered building control approvers and registered building inspectors will interact with you, as they will be monitored by the building safety regulator. The building safety regulator, as the body registering building inspectors and building control approvers, will have powers to discipline both individual surveyors and companies. The regulator will be able to impose sanctions on surveyors and companies, and in the most severe cases, surveyors and/or companies may have their registration withdrawn, meaning that they cannot practice. So, how will registered building control approvers and registered building inspectors be monitored by the building safety regulator? The regulator has produced operational standard rules which govern how registered building control approvers and registered building inspectors operate. They have also published monitoring arrangements requiring registered building control approvers to report information on a quarterly or annual basis about the functions and activities they have carried out. In support of this, they have given the strategic context to these changes, which describe the context of the changes and the behavioural change this is aiming to drive. The operational standard rules require building control bodies to have in place adequate systems and controls to ensure they carry out their statutory functions, and to make sure they have records to prove this, the right registered building inspectors of the right classification for the type of work they are monitoring, again maintaining records to demonstrate this, policies and procedures to ensure that they carry out their building control functions, enforcement and intervention policies. This is a key aspect of the change of culture to ensure that clients, designers and contractors are complying with the building regulations. Adequate monitoring arrangements to maintain records and ensure that clients, designers and contractors are complying with the building regulations. The Building Safety Regulator will require building control bodies to evidence these by providing quarterly or annual statistics based on a series of key performance indicators or KPIs. The changes in registration and monitoring of the building control profession by the Building Safety Regulator will affect how individual surveyors and companies interact with the new duty holders, clients, designers and contractors. Let's now consider how that might materialise. I previously mentioned the Strategic Context document. One of the key paragraphs in this document is the expectation of the duty holders, which we cover in another video in this series, linked in the description. However, it also states that building control bodies must expect duty holders to proactively demonstrate how their project will comply with the building regulations. This will change the conversation you have with your building control surveyor. In the future, if you ask your building control surveyor whether something complies with the building regulations, your registered building inspector is likely to say that they will not answer that question, but will ask you, the client, designer or contractor, how you think it complies and will tell you if they agree or not. To say that you did it the same way on another job is not a valid reason as to why your individual project is compliant. Greater coordination will be required between different consultants, for example, architect, fire engineer, M&E consultant. The submission cannot say it will comply, it should say it complies because it has been checked fully before being submitted. This change in approach is also recognised by the Construction Industry Council, who posted an article about the change in culture in July 2023. The CIC has said that this change in culture will mean that the new expectation is that designs presented to the regulator will need to be presented as a confident, compliant design rather than an offer for the building control body to consider the design and offer advice as to whether or not compliance has been achieved or if change is needed. So, how might this change in culture reveal itself in practice? Take this example. Consider the design of a roof structure to a domestic extension. Typically, a designer will detail the size of timbers and spacing and the grade of timber. However, the designer may not currently specifically state the span of the timbers, instead relying on a drawing being scaled, and rarely identifies what guidance document they have referred to in order to obtain the size of those timbers. Going forward, specifications will need to be more detailed, identifying all of the key dimensions and not relying on the scaling of plans. The specification will need to detail the guidance document used and the specific table and column referred to determine the size of the timbers. If reference is not made to any specific guidance document, it would be expected that calculations are provided to show how the design complies with the building regulations. It will not be the role of the registered building inspector to second guess what design guide has been used, nor will they offer advice on what size of timbers may be suitable for a particular span and construction. This will also include things like the roof covering. The designer will need to provide details of the specified covering and why that covering is appropriate. A specification of tiles to suit the pitch will no longer be appropriate, and the specification must detail the particular tiles to be used and information provided to show why they are suitable for the pitch of the roof. The changes in the legislation make it clear that it is the duty holders who have responsibility for complying with the building regulations. The role of building control and the role of the registered building inspector will be to guide these duty holders on how to discharge their duties. It is not the role of building control to offer design advice or tell the duty holders how their design can comply with the building regulations. Again, we come back to the changing culture such that should a designer or contractor ask a registered building inspector, "Does this comply with the building regulations?" the response will be, "You tell me how you think it complies and I will tell you if I agree or not." Please take the time to watch our other videos on these new amendments to the regulations and the Building Safety Act. We will provide further guidance and information as it becomes available. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you have any questions, please contact your building control provider using the details that are on screen now. Thanks for watching.